Of course, talk about the cat, but the truth is we cover everything that is asked in any of these B school exams, and we are with you every step of the way. So welcome back. There are some of you that I met earlier today. In fact, I took a session at 12 here on YouTube, then I was there simultaneously. So if you're new to our YouTube channel, please don't forget to check out BYJU'S Exam Prep app, because there are quite a few sessions that we go on and take there as well. Any issue with that? Am I audible to you? Am I visible to you guys? Could you please confirm it so that I know that I am with you? Charvi, Nancy, Shrenik, you guys are on the app. Let me know if you are there. And people on the YouTube, Anish and others, give me a quick thumbs up, yaar. Otherwise, I wouldn't really know. पता नहीं चलेगा नहीं तो मुझे कि तुम लोग हो या नहीं हो. Audible. Okay, fantastic. Great. Thank you, Anish, Pragya, Charvi. That's absolutely wonderful. So, I think you have been through one English session with Savitri ma'am already. Different words to talk about the English section. Some people would call it English, some would call it VARC, some would call it language skills, God knows what all. But then, at the end of the day, we are talking about English, and here is paragraph based questions. But when you go on to write the NMAT exam, you have RC, you have one paragraph based question, that is para jumbles, but thereafter we get all these new question types. So we have questions based on grammar, where we are asked to identify errors in the sentences that are given to us. Then the exam also gives us fill in the blanks. Now these fill in the blanks can be vocabulary driven, or they can also at times even be grammar driven. And then you notice preposition based questions, which is again grammar. So grammar, and this one fill in the blanks could be grammar, and the last one analogy is partly vocabulary, partly reasoning, and therefore you need to obviously go ahead and work on these things as well. Now, if you were to go, is that you are getting 36 questions in the English section. In fact, there are 3 sections in NMAT. Every section, of course, gives you. So when it comes to English, you don't get as much time as you would typically in the CAT, the English section, which makes it a speed-based test, isn't it? The focus is going to be a lot on speed. You don't even have a minute per question. So in such a scenario, 2 things become really very important, and those 2 things are, number 1, your question selection, and number 2, your time management. So typically when I go ahead and write an exam like the NMAT, I prefer for my order. In all probability, I will stand and look at either fill in the blanks or verbal analogies, right? So if I look at these 3, all in all, these 3 go on to give us 18 questions, right? And these 18 questions will not take you more than 10 minutes. So that's like at the max you take 10 minutes. And now you are left with 18 more questions. And now you also thankfully have 18 minutes. So the next thing, and para jumbles in whichever the NMAT, then go ahead and act accordingly. Okay. So eventually you need to determine, you need to decide what goes on and works the best. You don't get any honeymoon period whatsoever when it comes to the NMAT. Pragya, is the video lagging? Yes. Give me a second. I'm getting reasonable internet in parallel. Could you please look into it? Okay. Speed does not appear to be an issue. So maybe there is some other issue as well. Some other issue somewhere. Wouldn't know. But then that's something that is important for us to figure out, and I hope that you've gone ahead and looked at that. And with that, let us dive into RCs specifically. So when it comes to NMAT RC, you should expect it to be easier than what you get in the friendly. They're not as complicated, they're not as challenging. And the second thing in which, or the second way in which it favors us is that the passages are usually smaller, the passages are usually shorter. Okay, so these are the two ways in which questions here are not exactly going to be critical reasoning based. So let's get ready. Let's go ahead and solve a couple of passages. First part of the passage, once you have read this part, let me know. There are 3 paragraphs on this slide and I'll take you over to the next one. Okay. It should be all right. Suddenly the that pop up now. Okay, it's getting a little unsettling, but once you have read the paragraph, or once you've read this part of the passage, let me know and I can take you over to the next slide. Virender, video is not clear in the app. Virender, I will go ahead and ask someone to look into it. Or in case you are there on the app, you can ask people to maybe join in here in the interim. Anji, guys, are we through with this particular part? Oh, Virender, oh yes, chat is not public there. I'll just go ahead and make it public. Now it is public. So I don't know, I'll just request some team member in the interim to go ahead look at slide, since quite a few of you have read it. Here you go. Next bit. Okay guys, let me know if you are through with the passage and then I can take you over to the next slide. Okay, fantastic. Nidhi, Shivam, Pragya, fabulous. Here is the third and the last part. And after this, we will dive into the questions. Once again, the moment you are done reading it, let me know so that we can switch over to the questions. Okay, fabulous. So now that you have read this, let me take you over to the questions. Let's dive into the questions. Here is the first question for you, which asks choices. Here we have 5. So adds another layer, right? So go ahead, answer this question and then we'll see. So what's your take? What's your answer? Okay, Shivam has shared his answer. So has Pragya. So whenever we go ahead and attempt a main idea question, what is it that we do? Number 1, before we go over to the answer choices, we think of 2 things: the subject matter along with the purpose or the opinion of the author, right? So in this particular case, this is about Latin American nations and their economic condition. The author's opinion is that it is deteriorated, but if steps are taken, they can recover, right? So which option comes closest to it? Shivam, Pragya, Virender and Shreya think that the option that comes closest to it is C, and I think I would agree with you. So there is no answer choice which is perfect, but we can always go ahead and use elimination. So if you talk about A, it sends a message of hope. That's not something that is given. Advocates tough electoral reforms, alien, out of scope, not even mentioned in the passage. C is covering a major chunk except for 2 paragraphs. D, circle of dysfunction occurs. Array, this is not even talking about Latin American nations, so can be ruled out. E, it sends a clear message that without political reforms, Latin America will continue to see. No. There is just 1 paragraph towards the end. I mean, nothing else beyond that. So it's a very narrow answer choice. So you're absolutely right in choosing C. And with that, so C is our answer. And let's go ahead and check our next question now. And this is what we typically term a specific detail question. You get a comparatively higher proportion of these in the exams. So make sure that if you're on the YouTube, you can use the seeker to go back to the relevant part of the passage and then see if you can give me an answer. So Shivam, absolutely guys, absolutely. If you go back and refer to the passage, you'd realize that A, B, C and E are all mentioned. Resources such as hydrocarbons have no mention in the entire passage, and because the question is asking us for except, so anything that is cited as a reason can very easily be eliminated, and that of course leaves us with D as our answer. And with that, let's dive into our next question. Question number 3. So a major problem with Latin America's political system is that attempt it with extra dose of caution. Go ahead and check. So Nidhi, Shivam, Virender, Shubham and Pragya, great job on the previous question, guys. Okay. So since quite a few of us have picked up D, okay, let's look at D. It's circle of dysfunction in which citizens have little faith in institutions, which in turn leads to mediocre policies, thus compounding the problem. Okay, great. Is it given in the passage? Yes, but check. What does the question ask? The question asks a major problem with Latin America's political system. It is talking about a problem in the Latin American society. Where is it talking about the problem with the political system? In fact, if I look at A, if I look at B, that leaves you with C and E. And even here, I think it is easy, but then let me tell you, there is a relevant part. I'll just read it out quickly for you. Even among the many countries that remain firmly democratic, institutional design problems made governance difficult, blah, blah, blah. And then the peculiarly Latin American combination of presidential regimes and proportional electoral systems. Now we are talking about political system, right? Presidential regimes and proportional electoral systems often produce governments that lack parliamentary majorities with no mandate. They are unable to pursue reforms or fulfill their campaign pledges. Authoritarian regimes, yes, but are those regimes following excessive populist policies? That is something that we do not know, and therefore this part can be an answer in every case. It has to satisfy what is asked in the question, which in this case was problem with the political system. Let's dive into our next question. So third answer is C. Here is your question number 4. So if you look at the question stem, and if you don't look at the answer choices, you already know that it is going to be either a specific detail question or an inference based question. So you need to go ahead and figure out which all are true. And remember, in NMAT time, you don't get much time, right? So you need to get into that zone of doing things faster. Practice that. No, Abhishek, NMAT is usually easier than the CAT in terms of the subject matter, in terms of the Okay, so Pragya E, Nidhi C. So far we are looking at. Okay, so in the passage, where do we know that the authoritarian regimes are producing better economic results? In fact, the passage goes on to tell us the opposite, that these authoritarian regimes are pulling the economy behind. So E is contradictory. And because E contradicts the passage, can be ruled out. Okay, you're going with C. A lot of us are going with C. Okay, that makes sense. So C is right. If you have, if you are confused about any of these other answer choices, do let me know, and I'd love to talk about it. All factors in place for high growth in future? Not yet. Look at the last paragraph. Reforming the electoral systems is absolutely essential, not mentioned. It will be too late. Now D is tempting because it ends with they have to start now. But then it does not mean that if they don't start now, they definitely be too late. Okay, so too late essentially mean that you won't be able to fix it again. So that's not an implication. Let's dive into our next passage. So ready with the next passage? Oh, ready for the next passage, sorry. So take a breath and then we'll dive into the next one. Here is the next one, which touches upon more of sociology. So let's go ahead and read these. Once you are done with the paragraphs on this slide, let me know and I'll take you over to the next one. Fantastic. Nidhi, you were really fast in the session at noon as well, and you're carrying on with that form. Fabulous. Here is the next slide. Keep it up, Pragya. Good job. Yes, yes, yes. Buck up. Come on, Shivam. Done? Are we through with this? Okay. So here is the next and the, okay. So that was essentially the last slide for us, and here are the questions. So which statement can be properly inferred from the passage? Go ahead, give it a shot and tell me. Okay. Right, so a lot of us are giving C as our answer. Let me take you back to a particular part in the passage here. Over 60% of Iraq's population is under the age of 25. Many have seen their country go through cycles of extreme violence, conflict and instability. And now comes the important part, and yet play a limited role in the national peace and reconciliation efforts. And on the basis of this, if you look at C, what would you call it? Are they playing a significant role? Come on. That's not true. So C is taken off the table. What's your next best choice? Okay, Nidhi is choosing A. Women have no opportunities in Iraq. Now they have. Earlier they did not. But then, even now, they're just playing sports. And that is creating options. So they have no opportunities is something that the label that we apply is can't say. Women and girls of Iraq were not overly swayed by violent extremism. False. If not for, okay, sports is preventing or can prevent according to a particular person, but if sports is not there, are we sure that they are definitely going to turn to extremism? Can't say. On the other hand, this is true. See, you just need to combine information from two places. I'll tell you which two. Mosul synonymous with that, destruction, despair, right? And combine that with the last part. This. We now know that Daesh was able to consolidate their reign of terror in Mosul and beyond by exploiting marginalized women and girls, blah, blah, blah. So, terror in Mosul, Daesh in Mosul group, an extremist group, which has been in news quite often. So, I think most of us who have been very regular with the newspaper, etc., for the last couple of years, this name, you remember Daesh and ISIS and all those. So it's a group, it's not a person. But even then, that's immaterial to answer the question, right? The moment you combine those two pieces of information, A can be termed true, right? And that is why our answer for question number 5 is option A. And here is the next one. The issue is where it is coming from, but we'll see if we can fix that, huh? My apologies. I cannot really look at the technical aspects during the course of the session, so I am a little hamstrung. All I could do was check the speed, and the speed was all right. I'm getting adequate speeds, around 80 Mbps upload and download, so I don't know. Shivam, let's look at what A says carefully. Gender identity. Remember gender identity? There are people who are biological males and biological females, but then there are times when a biological male does not feel like a male. A biological female may not feel like a female. Those are the kind of questions that are linked with gender identity. So irrespective of your biologically know as sex and gender as a social construct, do you feel male? Do you feel? Is that a theme that has been discussed in the passage? The passage does not even talk about gender identity. Oh, Shivam, my bad, yeah. My bad. I thought that it is for this one. Okay, so the rest of you are essentially sharing E to thought conventional. This is essentially, yes, a specific detail question. If you refer to the relevant part, there is a sentence where it says, Hadil says that she loves, Hadil who loves hiking and driving and any other activity that challenges prevailing gender norms. So that is definitely captured best by option E. So for question number 6, the answer is indeed E. Here is question number 7. This is going to be very subtle, so you have to answer it very carefully. Okay, so we're getting B. What else are we getting? Where this project has been talked about. Let's read that part and then we can come back. Okay. This is the paragraph that deals with their vision. So what all does it talk about? Safe space for young girls and boys to participate in team sports in efforts to challenge gender norms, increase youth engagement and community resilience, with an overarching goal to prevent violent extremism and associated risks. So gender norms, youth engagement, community resilience, prevent violent extremism and associated risks. So this is the vision that it talks about. So turn them away from extreme activities, yes. Improve the strength of the engagement, yes. Challenge the current gender roles, yes. Now, did it talk about gender equality? It did talk about challenging the gender roles. Challenging the gender role is where you say that, hey, this is not a job for just men, or this is not the job for just women. When you start questioning that, you're challenging gender roles, and that is not equal to gender equality. That's a separate question. So you notice A, B, D and E are all mentioned as part of their vision. C was not mentioned in that paragraph, and because the question asks us for except, our answer for question number 7 should actually be option C. Virender, you're saying 7 p.m. sessions are facing buffering issues. So does that show, so should I understand that it is happening in the other 7 p.m. sessions as well? Because then that makes it a different problem. So I'll at least then we need to look at another solution to it. Okay. So what's your take? On question number 8. So what does the question ask? Youth participation in sports is important because the paragraph that we just referred to for the previous question also talks about it. So it does away with factors that make them extremists. True. That was one of the goals stated. It enables greater participation of the youth in nation building activities, not stated in the passage. So anything that is not stated, we generally call it out of scope or alien. C, it gives a proper space to the youth to play a major role in reconciliation. Again, not mentioned with respect to the participation of youth in sports. So C can also be ruled out. It builds their resilience and esprit. Esprit is actually a French word. It is not even an English word. Esprit means that somebody is very vivacious, full of energy, bubbly, enthusiastic, lively. So esprit has not been given, and yes, we have talked about building resilience, but it is not the resilience of the youth, it is the community resilience, and even this, and therefore this is also a distortion. E, it helps to create a sense of team spirit and teaches the youth the importance of teamwork. Yes, it does that, but is that why it is important? Is it a primary benefit of participating in the sport? But from there, the most important lesson that they got was teamwork. The most important lesson was teamwork, but that was not the most important reason behind playing the sport or behind participation in sport. They did not want them to teach teamwork to them. The goal was something else, and therefore E can also be ruled out, and thus the best answer choice for question number 8 is option A. So very subtle. See, we were asked for importance, right? So that takes care of the passages that we brought for you. Another session on Tuesday and then one more on Wednesday. We'd continue, and if you like working with us, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We have in fact also started a batch which focuses on other management entrance tests. So if you're not a CAT aspirant, you're looking at the rest of the exams, you can definitely join us. And additionally, on 20th of October, we'd go live talking about how the exam pattern is this year and what all you need to take care of. So that's it from me today. First, but I'm praying to the God to give all of us patience and a quick resolution of this technical issue. Until I see you next, which is actually tomorrow at 7, and then also so you can also join me at 3 on the app for working on some more vocabulary questions, and then of course we meet each other once again at 7 with verbal reasoning, entirely different question types. So make sure that you bring all your concept related queries and questions to the 7 PM session tomorrow, and I definitely address each one of those. Until then, have a great evening, enjoy your work, and I'll see you soon. Take care.